Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype episode 93, recording on Sunday, February 6th, 2022. My name is Frank.
And my name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And finally, the day is here. Our top 10 games of 2021. Our games of the year, if you will. And we've been talking about it for a while. I've been prepping hard the last 2 weeks, including Sean and I finally beating It Takes Two last night. Those videos are soon to come on youtube.com/GameJunk. But a lot of news. We don't give a shit. We're going to save that stuff. This is an important episode. People want to know what the best games are of 2021. They came to hear what I have to say, and I guess what you two have to say, even though you're wrong. We'll definitely be talking about that. But I say we just jump right into the lists. And I guess Sean likes to do a little preamble. That's his thing. I'll do the preamble, and I'm just going to say this was one of the best years for video games ever. I have games that didn't make my list that were very good games. And my number 9 game, I wanted to put it higher. I just couldn't. Like this, my list, very happy. I loved all of these games. So I think it's a really good year.
It's weird for me. Like I'm trying to compare it, and we obviously have been a little inconsistent with doing our top 10 games, for the show over the past decade, I guess. Sometimes we did it, sometimes we didn't. So it's hard for me to say what's a good year and what's a bad year, but I like, obviously, all of the games on my list quite a bit. But the one thing that I had trouble with was getting to the top of the list. There's a lot of games that I really liked, but I was like, I'm not comfortable with putting them super high up on this list. Like, okay, bottom 5, maybe. Top 5, I don't know. And for some reason, that's something I struggled with. I don't know why. That's just what it was for me this year.
I feel very passionately about my top 4 or 5. Even I'm very passionate about my list. Let's get right into it.
And I feel like I've barely played any of the games on my list, so I'm kind of in the Sean zone right now.
Well, we will start with you then, sir. Huck, what is your number 10 game of 2021?
This is so obvious. It has to be on my list. Mandatory Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I played about 5 minutes of this game. Guaranteed on my list. It has to be out of pure just love of the series. I don't even know what they improved in this thing, but it's on my list. Number 10.
Okay.
Huh?
Good choice.
Great start.
No one's going to argue with that.
Great start to the list. Let's continue.
Sean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my list. I think there's 2 games on my list that I didn't finish. So that's kind of new. Usually there's like 5 or more. But this is one of them, and it is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which, I have been playing on and off over the past month or so, and I like it quite a bit. And I think, we've talked about it, and it won the Narrative Award at the Game Awards. And I think for me, that definitely is the highlight of the game, the story, the writing, the voice acting, all that stuff is great. The combat, it's fun. It did take a little while to click for me, and I still feel I'm, over halfway through the game, I still feel like there's not that much action, but I still really enjoy the game and the music and all that stuff. So it's my number 10.
I said my goal was to beat that game before today, to evaluate it, because I did like what I played. I got a little further. I think I did 3 or 4 more chapters, enough to know it is not on my list. It's a good game, but you're incorrect that the story is the best part of the game. The best part of the game, hands down, it's semi-related to story. It is creature design and like world art. Like the idea of alien worlds, the different enemies you fight, while they're not that much fun to fight, they look amazing and they're extremely creative. I even watched part of the game again that I had played while I was doing some work to kind of refresh the story. And there's that creature that mimics some other creature in this monster area. Like that, those creatures are fantastic. They're better than stuff I see in movies now. So I think the actual art and concept stuff that's going on in this game is as good as it gets. And the worlds are very unique and colorful. They crush that stuff. Story's okay. A little obnoxious, to be honest. But my number 10 game is the only game. I was going right where you were, Sean. It's the only game I didn't finish on my list. And I played quite a bit of it. It is Forza Horizon 5, which it is a really good game. I've liked this whole series. It's always been a great series. This one, visually, like so much variety in the different sections of Mexico. A lot of fun. A great open world racing game. A little overwhelming mission and design-wise, but another great entry in the series, and looks fantastic. My number 10 game of the year.
Nice.
Okay. My number 9, probably not on anyone else's list, but it's 12 Minutes, which I did, after having it sit with me, I enjoyed quite a bit. Now, I thought the ending was kind of a reach, but other than the ending, I actually enjoyed the loop mechanic that they have. I enjoyed discovering everything in the area. I think these type of games where you need to find a lot of stuff really benefits from having a tight play space without a lot of like areas you need to explore, so you could just kind of master the one area and go from there. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I think a lot of people did, probably because they were turned off by the ending. But it made my list. Could also be a statement of how I barely played anything, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a controversial choice, I think, but I like it. I think it's, not enough people give that game props for some of the cool stuff it actually did. So, my number 9 is maybe a bit of a cheat. And we haven't really. Thanks, I'm already getting angry. Well, so we haven't really talked about, something like Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's a re-release, remaster. There's obviously things that have changed. How do you deal with games that have come out for, a different system in a previous year? You played it, in the last year on a specific system. And so my number 9 is The Pedestrian, which only came out on PC in 2020. Came out all consoles in 2021. And, in the end, I just decided to put it on my list because I feel like it's a great game that's not getting enough attention. And, it's a puzzle platformer. This is the game where you kind of control the stick man on a sign, and you kind of end up moving from sign to sign with all these interconnected puzzles. And I just think it's a cool concept, and it's definitely more puzzle than platformer, but I dig that, and I really thought the final level was a really interesting transition. So, The Pedestrian, check it out. It's on Game Pass now too, I think.
I should check it out. Mm-hmm. My number 9 is also a puzzle game that was featured on Game Pass, and I really wish this game was higher on my list because I talk about narrative in games being awful and overwritten and forgettable and something I don't care about at all. And this game was so innovative in its narrative that I can recite the whole story. I can remember every aspect of this game that doesn't have a word of spoken dialogue in its unpacking, which has one of the best mechanics for storytelling in a video game format I've ever seen. Like, just me saying that feels like it should be higher on my list, but I really enjoyed it. I loved the simple, satisfying nature of everything you do in that game, and it is an achievement in video game narrative. And I may regret not putting it higher. And I hope it comes to PlayStation at some point so I can platinum it and play it again.
You have an obsession with organizing shelves, so that is no surprise for me.
That was a nice of that game as well. Like I remember every room. I remember every aspect of that story. I played Psychonauts 2 this week, and I couldn't really tell you what happened in that game. Like, I know some of the characters' names. It's just this convoluted nonsense plot that I'm sure it's hilarious to Tim Schafer and everyone at Psychonauts, but I couldn't tell you much about it, to be perfectly honest. So, not 12 minutes. I hate that game. Unpacking. I played it. I don't know how long, 5 months ago, and I still remember almost everything about it.
Not bad. My number 8 is Inscription, which I have not beaten as per usual. But I really like the mixing of the sort of card game with the exploration of the room that you're in and how it kind of blends that and the mystery behind everything. It's very atmospheric. I think this kind of has like a similar aesthetic, not identical, but to like Return of the Obra Dinn, in that it kind of really uses a lot of filters and stuff to make it look older, I guess, than it actually is. And I think I had a hard time getting through this, some sections of this game. I found some of the bosses, I think the second one, the fisherman, I could not really figure out how to beat him. And that's kind of where I got stuck. But I kind of found it really inventive, and I just really enjoyed the aspect of like kind of changing your cards and getting different cards and how you can use these kind of, I don't know, what would you call it? Like upgrades or bonus items, I guess, to be able to
of a boon or an augmentation in a rogue.
Yeah, so all that stuff, and just like the randomness didn't feel so painful. And yeah, I thought all those combined to make a good game.
I agree. The some of the bosses and the battles can be really one-sided immediately, which is something I like, that it's not like this war of attrition that a lot of like deck building roguelikes can be. But at the same time, it's like this can take forever, or this could be over in a second. I'm like, I didn't even get to learn anything there. I just died immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta give that one another try at some point. My number 8 is Unpacking. Frank kind of said it all. It's, it seemed like it was just kind of a cool concept, but maybe just a game that's like, hey, you got to check out the game about, organizing shit in your house. But then when you actually play it and there is a story there, like that is a very impressive extra layer to what is just kind of a fun, addictive game.
I feel like I can remember 90% of the items I unpacked.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Not by me, by the game. Like you reiterate these things and pack them in different ways. And fuck, I should have put this higher. I'm already embarrassed. But it's a great year for games. I like my number 8 game better. It was more fun. And I can't even believe this game's only number 8. Resident Evil Village. I am 100% pro first person Resident Evil. I loved 7. I liked 8 even more. Even going beyond the fact that the Roman numerals for 8 were embedded in the word village. Like, that's already as good as it gets in my world. Now, back that up with an amazing game, kind of these modernized versions of different horror genres and bosses and people that relate to them. It kind of did everything from a horror perspective while bringing the action. The last section is the weakest for sure, but I thought it looked great, played great. I loved the village itself. It was a great Resident Evil game. The Duke. Remember the Duke? Was that his name?
The Duke. Yeah.
You know what that is, Sean?
I do. The I think the Lady Dimitrescu or whatever her name is, she kind of seemed like the character that everybody remembered from that game, and I was a little surprised she wasn't.
Like, if I'm going to use my own thing, like Unpacking, I remember every item. I still can't pronounce that character's name that everyone's talking about. Yeah. That's a bit strange.
My number 7 is Flynn, Son of Crimson, which I think none of you guys played, but you did?
I didn't.
I ended up really enjoying this game. I don't know if I platinumed it, but I beat all the game and I got all of the collectibles and stuff. But then there was like 400 people using something, blah blah blah, which I never got those ones. But I really enjoyed it. I thought they did. It wasn't anything special, but it was just a well-crafted game that wasn't frustrating at all, and I enjoyed playing through it. I don't know what else to say. And great pixel art and great mechanics, and the way they switch up the weapons you can use and how you need to attack different enemies, I felt stayed fresh through the whole game. And that's my number 7.
Yeah, I played about 10 minutes of that one, but I just didn't give it enough of a chance. But it's not a roguelike, right?
No. It's kind of like a side-scrolling action platformer.
Okay. Yeah, I got to go back to that too. Okay, my number 7 is Halo Infinite, which we kind of reviewed not that long ago. And, probably could have been higher on my list if I was more into the multiplayer and was, I enjoyed what I played of it. I just didn't put that much time into the multiplayer. But I thought the campaign was something new for Halo. We talked about how, it's been the last few games kind of feel like something was missing. I thought they kind of reinvigorated the franchise. Story's still a little bit crazy and convoluted, but, obviously the grappling hook was an amazing addition, and really enjoyed the campaign.
My number 7 is Death's Door, which is another game I loved. I did everything in that game. I loved the polish, the art style, the combat was fantastic. I feel like we've talked about the map it could benefit from some kind of map. I found the end game confusing. I would have had no idea what to do in the end game if there wasn't the internet. I just would have given up. But I was compelled enough to figure it out because I really enjoyed the world, the action, the art, and just a really satisfying action game, kind of the closest thing to a 2D Zelda game that isn't Zelda in a long time. And I kind of want to play it again. It finally came out on PlayStation, and I'm looking forward to returning to that world.
Okay, my number 6 is Bravely Default 2, which is on the Nintendo Switch. And it's a RPG. I think I talked about it last week or the week before. I really like the Brave versus Default commands you can do, and the strategy in the turn-based RPG battles that it provides. And I think the story is kind of fun and silly, and I don't know, I just like the characters. They have good characters in it, and it's just a pretty traditional RPG with that little twist, and I enjoy it.
Nice. My number 6, this is probably the biggest change in my list in the last couple of weeks, which is Deathloop. I wasn't on my list. I played about, 6-7 hours of the game, was enjoying it, and then I kind of hit a roadblock, and I just kind of was dying a lot and getting frustrated, and I was like, yeah, okay, and then something else came along, and I forgot about it. Frank played it, talked about it last week or the week before, and I was like, I gotta give it another try, and it clicked. I think the thing that I was missing before is that it's okay to do a few runs just to upgrade your weapons and become more powerful, because you need that. So once I kind of started being okay with that and understanding how many times you can just skip through the loop and start over again if you want, and of course just following the actual leads is important.
Leads is the most impressive thing about that game, that it took this loop-based structure and it's pretty open-ended as to how you play, and made information important, but was able to guide you through it. If you really just wanted to beat the game, you can, by focusing on the leads, which is so well done.
Yeah, and I think, it could be higher if, I had actually finished the game maybe, but I love the world, the style of it, the music, the kind of weird, mysterious vibe to the whole thing is definitely up my alley to begin with. But yeah, the structure of the loop it takes a while to kind of grasp the whole thing.
Yeah, it wasn't until 4 hours that I got this game.
Yeah, and that's where it's I totally understand people who picked it up based on the strength of the reviews and were just I don't know what these reviews are talking about, what's going on here. and it's just, you got to give it some time, and it is, when it clicks, it's pretty cool, and it's very different. So
yeah, it's really good. That there is the part that you were struggling with, I feel like, is a weird kind of like long, you have to do stealth in the reactor portion, and it's like, I thought the whole point was I get to choose how I play, and then it's kind of forcing me down a path, and I think people who don't like stealth struggle with that part. I also find that the writing is a little obnoxious too at times, like F-bombs constantly. And
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I do kind of like the Colt and Juliana back and forth stuff, though. I kind of like that relationship.
I like the characters, and I like all the character designs. It's just the writing I was not crazy about. My number 6 is Halo Infinite. This is kind of a weird one because I think it's my most played game of the year based on how much multiplayer I've played in it. But the campaign is very good, not great. There are some issues. The open world sections are great, but when you get into indoors, it definitely loses some steam. But I liked it the most out of any single player Halo since Reach. And I think it's super polished. I love the multiplayer is so well balanced. I still love playing it. The progression systems are perfect for me. So the amount of effort and time commitments I want to put into a multiplayer game and not feel like I'm getting left behind, this game hits the sweet spot. So a great game. I was fearing the absolute worst for Halo Infinite, and it impressed me in every possible way. And the grappling hook. How do you add a new mechanic that captures the essence of the physics-based gameplay in a shooter like Halo? And the grappling hook is as good as you can do. It's perfect.
Okay, my number 5 is Subnautica Below Zero, which is the follow-up to Subnautica. And the game loop is pretty close to the same as Subnautica. I feel like they improved the pacing of doling out the story portions of the game. But overall, I think the game loop of getting, resources out of the ocean and then crafting things and, slowly progressing further and deeper into the ocean and around the area is just really good and really fun. And and that's why it's at number 5 for me.
I gotta give these Subnautica games a try. The one thing that always scares me off.
VR, like, how have you not played Subnautica in VR?
Yeah, that's true too. But the one thing that always scares me off from games recently is when I see survival in the description, and I'm like, I don't know, that just doesn't sound fun. And I think you have the choice in this one. You can kind of like turn off some of that stuff, but I'm like, I don't know, that doesn't feel right either. So, but yeah, I will definitely try.
If you don't like survival games, have you played a survival game?
I don't know if I have.
You gotta give it a shot. This is the one.
Yeah, and maybe.
I've never played any of these Subnautica games. It sounds like I'm trying to sell them hard. I've never played them.
Yeah, the survival genre, you've got stuff like, I guess, like Valheim and stuff like that would probably fall into that. I feel like it is kind of like an up and coming or already here kind of new genre that's like a big thing that a lot of people are trying to hit. And yeah, I guess I just haven't.
Technically survival. There was that Rust game.
Yeah, the Forest. I mean, Don't Starve technically is considered one, I believe. So it's all pretty similar.
I should try them more.
Yes, but I mean, Subnautica seems like it has like a bit of a Metroid Prime kind of element to it. I don't know if I've seen people mention that, but it just it feels like it's something I could get into. So yeah, I gotta try it. Okay, what are we on? 5?
5. Mm-hmm.
My number 5. This is where Frank gets triggered. My number 5, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which I think is a great game, but it is number 5 on my list, and not number 1 because it just kind of like I played through it pretty quick, and it just did not leave much of an impression with me. I think the controls were solid. I think the weapons were a lot of fun. And the portal mechanic, maybe they didn't do quite as much with it as they kind of initially said they were going to, but it was still cool. But also the dialogue and stuff just was like in one ear, out the other. And I'm sure Frank will say that's every game, but it's felt a little worse than usual for me in this game. But still, my number 5. It looks amazing, and that's
It does. And the portal mechanic, I think there's this unfair judgment on the portal mechanic, like that it's a mechanic. It's not. It's just a storytelling device. It's part of the story. That's it. And there's a small thing where in certain areas it lets you jump and move around the level more quickly. It's not like a big mechanic. Relax. It's not like the shitty.
Well, I mean, it's what the title of the game was kind of based on, but yeah, I mean,
it's part of the story. Like it's so you can like have these hidden areas in a level that are like visually distinct and create this visual pacing and variety within one level. When you're kind of getting sick of a level, oh, here's like, I'm going to go to this other dimension temporarily, mix it up, then jump back out. Thanks to the powerful loading times of the PlayStation 5 SSD, this game is taking us to places quickly and amazingly. All right, my number 5 is also a PlayStation exclusive game for consoles. It's Deathloop. Just want to remind people, even though Microsoft now owns Bethesda, Deathloop is a PlayStation exclusive. And it is a very good game.
For now.
I do want to mention, a lot of bugs. My game soft locked and crashed many times. That seems to be a trend that is happening more and more with games. And it's really frustrating. I did not put Returnal on my list if we're going to talk Blue Haze. I tried to force feed it hard. I played it Friday night. I played it Saturday. I played it today, trying to get it on this list. I finally had a good run, made it to the boss of the first area. To be clear, I started the whole game over again. After my previous version, I was like, why did I ever quit this game? I'm loving this game. Oh, that's right. There was a bug with a patch that prevented me from making any progress and corrupted my save file. Oh, that's why I stopped playing this game. And now I finally made it to that boss again, used this restart kind of mechanic, and then I made it back to the boss room, and the boss didn't spawn. And the 3 hours I spent getting to this, I had to throw in the garbage. I finally did good at this game, and I was forced to trash it. So fuck you, Returnal. I'm done. I will not be trying that game again for quite a while because it is too hard, too annoying, and broken. But Deathloop, although it is broken at times, it is very creative. It is so polished. The presentation is phenomenal. Kind of like Halo, I've mentioned, the weapons are so unique and so cool. The world is amazing. And the achievement of telling story and guiding a player through a looped experience cannot be slept on. Amazing game.
Cool. My number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy, or Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy. Pretty much everything Sean said is the reason why it's up my number 4. I really enjoy the humor actually in this game, all the little side conversations that happen when you're just kind of like walking around the ship and while you're walking through the world. I think that's hilarious. And the combat is the weakest part of it, but like Frank said, the environments are really impressive, creature design really impressive. The music, soundtrack, I enjoyed it a lot more. I had very low expectations for this game, and it impressed me a lot.
Yeah, if I'm going to call out Deathloop for saying fuck all the time, I'm going to call out Guardians of the Galaxy for saying flark all the time. It's just annoying and more frequent.
Yeah, the one thing with Guardians too, like I've seen a lot of people saying that there's just too much dialogue, right? Like just too much talking. Like sometimes you just want them to shut up so you can just get done what you need to get done. And I kind of get that, but I think you also need to just like, it's okay to miss some of the dialogue, it's okay to just ignore it. Like it's just going on in the background and it just feels like you're part of this team that's chattering the whole time. So
I'm going to give credit to Guardians of the Galaxy compared to other games that might be on lists, other people's lists coming up. At least in Guardians, I'm doing something while I'm ignoring dialogue. I'm not on a dialogue screen that I can't skip lines for, that it's like an archaic 20-year-old dialogue system that is like painful and annoying to get through all the time, to the point where I'm literally playing Psychonauts 2 for a third of the game. The other 2/3, I'm cutscenes, dialogue, play for 2 minutes, 2-minute cutscene, play for 2 minutes, 2-minute cutscene. What is going on in that game? It's constant cutscenes and dialogue. At least it's integrated into the experience in Guardians of the Galaxy, even if it isn't great.
Easy, bud. We're not at Psychonauts 2 yet.
Narrative for when we get there. Everyone is questioning that choice.
All right, number 4, Resident Evil Village. Really enjoyed this game. You know, I like Resident Evil 7 a lot. Still haven't finished it, but like I thought it was an interesting way to sort of reinvent that franchise, and the first person thing I thought really worked. But I did really miss the action element. You know, as we know, I like Resident Evil 4 quite a bit. So I thought this managed to kind of, obviously it's continuing the story of Resident Evil 7. I thought it managed to keep some of what I really liked about 7, but also bring the action back in. And I thought it was a good balance. Like, you know, there's one of the major chapters is really not action at all. And you're kind of, you know, it's just kind of atmospheric and creepy and gets under your skin. And I thought that worked really well. But then the other stuff, there is more action, and I like that too. So my only real complaint, I felt like the final level wasn't bad, but it kind of went on a bit longer than I wanted it to. But yeah, really enjoyed Resident Evil Village.
It's a very good game. My number 4, and this one took a hit big time, is It Takes Two. Halfway through this game, I was convinced it was my game of the year. The pacing was exceptional. It was full of new ideas, minute after minute, new idea, new gameplay, new design, new genre. And like, I do love the game. This is a very strong year for games. So like, even though it's number 4, it is an amazing game. It's just the last 3 chapters, maybe 2 chapters. It's not as much fun as the first half. The story, the ending is kind of weak. The mechanics and the puzzle mechanics in the last 3 sections are less exciting and less rewarding. And it kind of turns to a more open world hub design where it's like 3 tasks within this hub world. It just loses steam towards the end. But I mean, achievement wise, visually incredible. Some of the best design pacing, I think, and variety of any game I've ever played, and visually paced amazingly. And the character of Dr. Hakim, I can't believe how successful that character is. At the beginning, I'm like, I'm going to hate this character by the end. And by the end, I couldn't get enough. I'm like, give me more. Give me more Dr. Hakim. He's the best. And I did really like the game. And I mean it when it was I was sure it was going to be my number 1 game, and the last half just stuttered a bit, so it got bumped down.
Wow. Okay. Convinced me to make a list adjustment there. My number 3, kind of ashamed this isn't my number 1, and I'm starting to worry that this is not on anyone else's list. But it's Kaze and the Wild Masks. I don't know how much more I need to talk about this game. It's amazing. And I love this game. When did it come out? In February or March of 2021? Like pretty early on. And I still can remember this game. I still remember like how fun it was to play. There were some frustrating parts that took some, times to retry again. But overall, I love this game. And I thought the variety with the different types of masks you put on and how they integrated them into the gameplay was really creative, and I thought kept the pace going at a really nice rate. And it was up there near the top, and I dropped it down just recently, and it's amazing. Go play it.
I'm glad you put it on your list. It is a great game.
Okay. Spoiler, it's not on my list, but
Did you even play it?
I did play a little bit of it. I probably didn't give it enough of a chance, partially because I felt like, hey, you guys have been championing this thing so much that I was just like, I'll get to it when I get to it, and then I just never got to it. So
Didn't have Tim Schafer's name on it.
that's true. It did not. Number 3, Death's Door, which is
High Psychonauts 2.
yes.
Like this game you're playing, I can't even believe it.
Death's Door is amazing. Like, it's certainly Zelda-esque. I think it kind of, there's a lot of games that copy Zelda. I'm excited for Tunic coming out this year, which seems much more kind of a clone of Zelda in a way. But this, I think, takes sort of the top-down action RPG thing and has its own style, has like a very unique story to it. Very well designed, very tightly designed levels. I do agree. A map would have helped. And I just, I don't know if it's because we've discussed there are some Souls-like things mixed into this game. And I don't know if this is a part of it, but I just felt like there were a couple things, some of the difficulty, was a bit off-putting for me. And then there was stuff that I felt like I wasn't quite told, for instance, health upgrades took, I was over halfway through the game before I realized there was health upgrades. And that helped out a lot. So, just things like that where I was like, could have used a little more hand holding maybe, but whatever. It's still an amazing game.
My number 3 is a late edition, Solar Ash. Not a lot of people talking about this game. It was one of my most fun and compelling playthroughs where I played it over a course of 2 days and I just wanted to keep going. Again, great pacing visually, the different worlds. I think I've said this about a lot of games, but very unique art ideas and variety and just originality. Do you remember back in the day, every game had a water level, a fire level, and it just kind of started to bleed together. The games this year are really good at making, or today are they make distinct visual environments with new ideas. And I mean, I don't love Psychonauts 2. I like it, but at least it has creative areas. You can't say that there aren't amazing original ideas in each of the different sections, especially visually. So, but where this game shines is in the gameplay, the locomotion, the skating mechanic, and this. It's hard to explain. There's this rhythm combat, this graceful motion mechanics with some puzzle ideas built in, an influence of Shadow of the Colossus with these huge bosses that are kind of platforming puzzles. But not a lot being said about this game, and it deserves better. It's a really good game.
Yeah, it definitely came out really late in the year, and I feel like that's maybe part of the reason why it's not being seen by a lot of people. But
yeah, my number 2. Now my number 1, number 2, going back and forth. I'm going to put It Takes Two at number 2, and I have not played through as far as you guys. Obviously, I didn't play any more from where I talked about it the last show, but I love the variety of design. I love the visual aspects. Just a lot of the stuff, the controls, all seems just so polished and so put together. And it is fun how they integrate the 2 players to work together as a team in all these different scenarios. And I just really, I really enjoyed what I played. And I don't know, man, when I get to the end, hopefully it doesn't go down as much as Frank says it does, but I really enjoyed the parts I have played a lot.
I mean, it's not a huge drop. It's just a really strong top 4 games for me, and it just lost some steam.
Mm-hmm. All right, my number 2 is Psychonauts 2. It's finally here, Frank. And, I mean, I honestly, probably everything in my top 5 could be, well, my number 1's my number 1. We'll talk about it. But I think the other ones were all kind of interchangeable, bounced around a bit. Psychonauts 2 for me, some of those levels were some of the most creative, fun levels I've played in a long time. And they stuck with me. And I know well, we kind of already talked about it during our playthrough of It Takes Two, so you can see some of that at some point. But, I will agree. There are some control frustrations. But it never, like, it wasn't like I was dying a million times. Like, I get frustrated with games, trust me. So, like, I felt like it was at a level that was didn't really take away from the game. It was just like polished stuff where it's like, when you fire off your telekinetic power, there's nothing there. Like, I don't think there's any rumble on it. Like, it just feels blah. But it's fine. It's functional. But for me, I really like the story.
Functionally number 2.
I really like the story.
Like, if there's anything Psychonauts 2 is lacking, it is functional design elements. It's oozing with creativity. It is not functionally sound, especially from a design standpoint. Selecting mechanics is about as clumsy as it's ever been. I need to see an IGN article saying, does Microsoft have a mechanic switching problem between Halo Infinite's grenades, Psychonauts powers, Ori and the Will of the Wisp picking different powers on buttons? Like, games have never made it so hard to pick what you want to do in a game. It's brutal. It's bad. By the end of this, I beat the game this week, and I still was picking the wrong powers. I'd go to the power selection menu, I'd come back and not have what I thought I had. It's so unintuitive. It's terrible. The mechanic switching is terrible, and most of the mechanics are not fun. I mean, there's a lot of cool ideas, but they are not fun. Like, the last mechanic you get, the mental projection, great name, great idea, and align with like a game about your mind. It's not even fun. It's like you hold it to get this digital projection that does nothing. It's like point and click puzzle solving in the middle of a platforming game. The mechanics are brutal. Absolutely brutal. And it's mostly a platformer, and the platforming is terrible. I was falling, misjudging jumps all the time. I watched the video. I think it's Simone de Rochefort of Polygon. They have like this apologist video where I suck at Psychonauts 2, but at least the game tells me what I'm doing wrong. No, Simone. The game is broken. You're fine at video games. Have you ever had this problem playing a video game before where you die constantly and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to beat the boss, but the game has to say, hey, do this, or hey, you did this wrong, and it has to reinforce what you should be doing at every turn? No, because games have solved these problems. Psychonauts 2 hasn't. It has great ideas. It executes them poorly. And that's why everyone playing dies and doesn't know what to do and has to check guides, because it's not fundamentally sound from design. It's the game's problem, Simone, not yours. Stop apologizing for Tim Schafer's shitty game design.
Well, I mean, I don't find that it's that bad, Frank, honestly. Like, talking about it being brutal and unplayable, like, it's fine. It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. And all the other stuff is amazing. So it definitely makes up for it in other areas. I think, you talk about like design stuff as if it's like kind of like a quantitative thing where it's like, this, objectively speaking, this is the only way to do this. This is the way all games need to do this. And I just don't think that's the way it should be. Like, I think
I'm okay if a game does it a different way and does it well, but these are problems that have been solved. Like, I don't play other games and like, how do I pick powers again? And I can't make this jump. Like, I don't say, maybe this game's rethinking how jumping works. It's not. It's just the camera's not great. Like, being able to judge jumps is not well done. Like, if you have to levitate to glide and then I move that power, I basically have to keep levitate on the left trigger. So now I've already taken one of these selective powers and dedicate it to one button. And the more you move them around, they become less instinctive to use in combat. I have to relearn how to do combat every time by remapping powers to different buttons constantly. That is broken. What game has like 24 different guns that you change constantly, yet I'm never confused about what gun I'm using? Oh yeah, Ratchet and Clank. It solved this problem. And I know the answer. Well, Psychonauts 2, you have to use them in combination at different times. I get that. Well, that's your problem to solve. If that's that important, you solve the problem. Don't say, there's no right or wrong way to do this. There is a right way and a wrong way. You've done it wrong. And I agree that visually amazing. I'm sure everyone just loses it over the psychedelic music festival level. I did as well. It's fantastic. It's the ashtray maze of Control of 2021. It's leaving this lasting impression for a game that isn't that great otherwise. The dialogue system, like I said, a word I've used multiple times, I will say it again, is archaic. I am barely playing this game. It is constant cutscenes. I wanted to do a parody song of Katie Lang, Constant Cravings, Constant Cutscenes, and rewrite the words for Psychonauts 2. That's all it is. I mean, it is not.
There goes my hero. Watch him as he goes.
And I'm like, are we playing the same game? How you could have this game above Ratchet and Clank on your list? They do the same thing. They're based on games from the early 2000s. They're still platformers at heart. They have multiple buttons. They're very story focused. And Ratchet and Clank does, I would say, arguably every single thing better, except, I agree, Psychonauts 2 has a lot of creativity. It's infused with creativity. But that's not to say Ratchet and Clank isn't. All the weapons, like that's what people talk about Ratchet and Clank. Oh, these cool weapons, or these like inventive ways of using combinations of weapons. The creature design by Insomniac is second to none. Like the people say it's like a CGI animated movie. Yet then everyone is saying Psychonauts 2, which I'm going to say I hate the character design in Psychonauts 2. I always have. This is better than Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart? What world am I living in? Like, there's no...
Well, I just want to clarify, Frank. They are both on my top 10 list. If you go to Metacritic, they're both, I believe, 88, 89%, something like that. So they're pretty comparable, I think. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that they're both great games. But, I mean, if you didn't like Psychonauts 2, I'm sorry to hear that, because it is a great game.
I did beat it. I agreed. Like the platforming sections where you go into a book or an X-ray, like they have awesome, cool ideas. It's kind of broken. It needs more polish. It's like we have talked about offline. Well, it feels like it's been in development for a long time. I think it's too beholden to the original. Like you're almost saying Psychonauts 1 is the best game of 2021 by saying Psychonauts 2 is the best game. I do want to say the Figments are one of the best collectibles in game history. The idea like they scale and can be hidden and they're 2D, like you can do really creative things with Figments. Oh, I forgot. How did I bring up the duffel bags or the emotional baggage? Like that's a fundamentally broken design concept. That is supposed to be a reward for exploration. You go beyond the requirements of a level, you're exploring. The challenge is like, what do you want to find? How much do you want to explore this world? I find and explore and I find some hidden passageway, or I burn a painting and find a hidden room only to not get the reward. It's like, sorry, you got to come back after and play the game again to get that successful thing you just did. Way to crush that feeling of doing something satisfying. Oh, do I look it up? Can I get this? Am I doing this wrong? Do I have to replay this to get this collectible? Yes, you do. This game is broken. Sorry. We all love Tim.
I mean, collectibles mean nothing to me, Frank. So that's a very, very minor issue, if you ask me.
Giving arguments as to for why, unsubjectively, the game has bad design, and I think those are pretty solid arguments I just made.
It is rough around the edges. I'm not going to argue with you on that, but I just think that's the game. Like it does feel like it's been in development for a long time, where there's just been ideas packed in so much that things start to come undone a little bit. But I'd rather have all the ideas in there. And
I want to reiterate, it's a good game. It is a good game. It should not be higher than anyone's list than Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. If you just say there's too many Ratchet and Clank games and you're glad Psychonauts 2 is back in some capacity. That's your reasoning if you have that higher on your list.
Well, I mean, I guess one thing I could say too that could be a factor, I don't know if it is for you, but I just didn't play a lot of other Ratchet and Clank games. So those characters don't mean as much to me, certainly, as the characters in Psychonauts. But I don't know if you feel that way about Ratchet and Clank or not. I just like the characters. They look good. I don't care about the story. You probably care about story more than I do. I couldn't tell you what happens in Psychonauts 2 for the most part. Like people are saying like, oh, it's really emotional. Not even close. Like it's too convoluted. I don't have a problem with like
like I would maybe give it an 8 or 7.5. Again, it's not a horrible. It's like Control. It's the fact that I'm seeing it at number 1 on lists, and I'm like questioning what is going on. An 89 Metacritic for this game is lunacy. It's pure lunacy.
You said you were going to give it an 8 out of 10, and 89 is lunacy? Like,
for a Metacritic, yeah. Do you know how high that, like, hardly any game goes that high into Metacritics. Someone always has a problem with a game. It's very rare that a game Metacritic goes that high.
yeah,
It's
I mean, I
true.
guess there is a popularity contest element to that as well. And, you know, you mentioned the Tim Schafer thing. He's definitely...
He's cool. He's funny. It doesn't make this game good. I'm sorry. I guess it doesn't make this game great. Let me be very clear. It makes it good. It doesn't make it great.
So now that this review of Psychonauts 2 is over, where are we in the list? I think Frank's at number 2.
I think, well, that was Sean's number 2. I've been thinking about this game all week, and I can't wrap my head around it, how it's so high on so many lists. And one more thing I resent about Psychonauts 2, and this has nothing to do with the game. It's like everyone's saying, oh, like I played it and I'm like, it's okay. And I was like, no, you got to keep playing. It's the end. It gets good at the end. It gets better and better. I don't think that's true at all. I think it peaks in the middle, and it's okay for the rest. And while we're on the psychedelic level, the fact that there's this mechanic where you shoot a spotlight at these prisms to build these roads, okay, that's kind of neat visually. But I have to move the beam every time to aim it at the prism, okay? Which I understand the idea there, but there's no point to it. There's no puzzles where I have to pick which one to shine it at or do like a series of them, and it's like a puzzle figuring out which one to point this one at. And now it's just always point it to the same one every time. Grab it, point it to the first one you see. And it's like taking me a minute, because it moves so slow, to move the spotlight. There's not even like a challenge where things attack you while you move one of these things. Like, that is a broken design concept. If that's your idea, just have it pointing it there already. I turn it on, I'm done. Thank you. If you're not going to elaborate on that idea, you have nothing to say. That, like, we're done. Just make it easy. You're just making it annoying because you want to make your game longer. Or maybe it was an idea you abandoned. Those are actual reasons why it is broken or bad design.
It's not broken. It's just not up to Frank's standards.
I feel like I've done a good job of eliminating subjectivity from those criticisms. I've quantified it well, or qualified it well. All right, my number 2, a game that no one is talking about, and it is a million times better than Psychonauts 2, and one of the most fun throwback platforming experiences I've ever played in my life is Kaze and the Wild Masks.
Oh my God, yes, I can't believe it. I was so worried.
I played this game and I didn't touch another game until I had platinumed this game. It's so much fun. The designs are amazing, obviously inspired by Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World, 2 of the best platformers, if not the best 2D platformers of all time. And this game takes those ideas, expands upon them, and brings modern day quality of life. So many games, including Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, have tried to recreate the magic of those old Nintendo platformers and failed, and Kaze and the Wild Masks has succeeded. Everyone should be playing this game if you like 2D platformers. Why it's not being talked about, and Psychonauts 2 is a darling of a game, will blow my mind forever. Kaze and the Wild Masks, you're amazing. Everyone should be playing you.
Well, I think
agree.
we know why nobody's talking about it. Nobody knows about it. It's a small indie game.
That's what
but-
video game journalists are supposed to be doing. Not talking about how great a not great game is. Talk about this game. This is an awesome game that no one is playing.
I totally agree. No one is playing it, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. My number 1 is Death's Door. I think it's just incredibly polished, incredibly fun. I thought it was really good. I got frustrated at some points, but it wasn't too overwhelming to make me stop playing. I basically played it straight through and just really loved everything about it. I thought the world was interesting. They have like a lot of carrot and stick type things that Nintendo is well known for, where they kind of, they show you it just off in the distance, but you can't quite get it yet. They do that a lot, and I think it's very effective. And it just keeps you wanting to go more. And yes, the map, not having a map is an issue, but I feel like the map is sort of the hub world in a sense, and you do get a sense of where everything is because of that hub world. Now, obviously,
The
inside,
four, like, cardinal directions, right? Like the north, south,
That's right.
east, west. That's how the world's split up. So it's not like playable.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I never took a big break from it. So I think if I had, it would be much more difficult to get back into it, which I think I mentioned when I had played it. But overall, I think it's really well done. I really like the creative nature. I think when Frank reviewed it, he kept going on and on about the death text when you die. Yeah, that's great. Whatever. But I thought
I don't remember it now.
I think it's cool, but I mean, it's like,
What is it?
it just like flashes death at you, and then like you can see the gameplay in the background. Do you remember that? No.
It was very polished. So I remember that. I did.
Yeah, but I just really like it. I'm kind of regretting not having Kaze up here now, but
Should have had it at your number one.
yeah. Oh well, that's where it is. It's locked in now forever.
okay, my number one is It Takes Two, which, I agree with Frank. It did drop off a bit at the end, but just the sheer, variety of gameplay mechanics they're throwing at you. And, most of them are pretty solid. Like, you think a game like that could be a disaster where, there's not really one single thing you're doing throughout the game. You're constantly switching it up. But I think they're all really well done. And, the themes of some of the levels are so creative, and obviously the co-op element is a lot of fun. Like I do think and wonder, like, obviously It Takes Two did win Game of the Year at the Game Awards and has been well reviewed as well. And I feel like the game has a bit of an unfair advantage because of the co-op thing, because you have to play it co-op with somebody else. And just that experience kind of elevates playing that game, the experience of playing that game. So,
But not just that, like, you're constantly impressed by this. Like, some games might have a co-op mechanic and it's kind of one idea for 2 hours. It's taking like ideas within ideas. So each section has a power, but then with that power, there's 4 different uses of it. Or, you go into a chase section where it flips it a bit, and it's always flipping its own mechanics on themselves and looking at them in different ways. I want this to be my game of the year. I couldn't do it by the end because it's super impressive. Kind of like Cause, I feel like more people should be playing it. I think all of the accolades are completely justified. And just if it was the first 5 hours, I'm done. Like, I haven't played anything better than the first 5 hours of this game this year.
yeah, I think the story is really strong and kind of obviously feeds into the co-op element, like, being about 2 people who their marriage is kind of deteriorating and trying to rediscover their relationship. Like, that's a great idea. I do think it doesn't end in the best. It just kind of ends in a weird place, but still, I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really good game. And design-wise, like, so impressed. And compare that to Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 introduces ideas, and I still don't fully understand them by the end. Like, this is introducing a new idea that you have to learn. Like, there's that part with the aiming. It has an aiming spotlights mechanic where it's like the world on its side and the gravity shifting. You use it for 3 minutes, and it makes complete sense. And then you throw it away. Okay, I learned something, throw it away. I can't even learn the things that are part of the entire game in Psychonauts 2. So, Sean, I feel bad because I feel like you might think I'm going after you.
Well, I agree with you, Frank. It Takes Two is better than Psychonauts 2.
It's not you. It's the game, Psychonauts 2, and the response to it that it really irks me.
I know. It's always about the response to the game. I got you, Frank.
It is the new most overrated game of all time. It is surpassed.
At least you won't be making fun of Huck for liking Control. Now you can make fun of me for liking Psychonauts 2.
There you go.
Psychonauts 2 is very similar to Control. Like a 7.5 game that has been elevated to some crazy level.
I think I might reinstall Control right now. Got the itch.
Okay. Clearly, my number one game of the year is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. The only game I literally blew through it beginning to end over 2 days. I think maybe maybe something came up, but I just wanted to play this game until I was done it. It's so well paced. The weapons are amazing. It's just fast, fun action, super polished. The weapons, I know that's Insomniac's thing. This game is no exception. It was just a joy to play. It might be unfair that they've iterated on the same things over and over again, but to be fair, it's improved it. I think they realized, looking back at old Ratchet and Clank games, kind of how you might look back at Psychonauts 1 and say, you know what, by today's standards, the movement's kind of slow. You know, like walking around the pace that Ratchet has in other games, like this is not going to hold up for today's audiences. So what do? We do what everyone does now. We have a skating mechanic, and you boost around the level, and like open world sections become super fun and kinetic. And it works. It makes getting places more fun than having to walk super slowly, say in like a Psychonauts 2 or a similar type game. But like it's improved upon everything. It keeps making the game better over and over again. And I feel like this game is getting overlooked because there's been so many Ratchet and Clank games. And this one's clearly the best. It's the most fun out of any of them. So if you're going to make Forza Horizon 5 your game of the year, like, that's insane to me because it's basically the same version as Forza has been over and over again. But, like, it really doesn't add that much to the table. Like, it's almost designed entirely the same, where this one is pushing everything design-wise and making it more fun. I guess maybe you could say it's short. I like short games. I love Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
This was the one game where I got the old PS5 last week, and the library let me down. I was apparently not putting this baby on hold soon enough because I could not get it, or there's too many people still hanging on to it. Didn't get a chance to play it. I did get a chance to play Returnal. Also not on my list, obviously. But this Ratchet & Clank was the one game, the one PS5 exclusive that I did really want to give a try for this list, but I did not get a chance.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that maybe one of the reasons maybe why it's being overlooked too is that it's a PS5 exclusive and a lot of people still don't have PS5s.
Yeah.
Although I feel like Returnal gets talked about quite a bit and that, PS5 exclusive, right? But
I think there is like this kind of influence in like top 10 lists to highlight things that are new and original more so than what's fun. And I feel like the most important thing on my list is what games did I have the most fun playing. It's not like a innovation recognition list. That's part of it, but it's what did I have the most fun with.
Okay, honorable mentions. Anybody? Frank doesn't do one.
I just wanted to say that I have Deathloop at my house. The library came through on that one, but I just have had no time to play it. I really wanted to give that one a try. Eastward didn't get back to, Witchwood didn't try, and Solar Ash, after Frank raving about it, I wanted to try Solar Ash, and I never got around to that. So I had a few that, I wouldn't say honorable mentions, but just ones I didn't really get to give a fair shake that could have cracked probably Mass Effect in 12 minutes off the list.
I like to give some intentional omissions rather than honorable mentions. That aren't bad, but they're not on my list for a reason. Metroid Dread. Kind of strange that Metroid Dread didn't make Sean's list. Mr. Metroid.
That is true.
I'm bummed. It's not even an honorable mention for me, to be honest with you, which is sad. But, as Frank said, I guess it's more fun once you finish the game to go back and 100% everything, which I didn't do. So
I was a reason why I cannot put it on my list. Like, that's not how a game should work. That's not why I play video games. Guardians of the Galaxy and Returnal and Kenna. I went back to all those games this week in the hopes that they make the list. Not going to happen.
Yeah, so my actual honorable mentions are The Artful Escape, which was on my list up until Deathloop knocked it off. Bonfire Peaks, which is that puzzle game I've really been enjoying. Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Believe it or not, honorable mention. Haven't finished it. Do plan to go back because I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to.
God, I beat that game. I did everything in that game.
Yeah, I thought it might be on your list, but
Still broken. The game is broken.
there are some issues, yeah. But I did enjoy it quite a bit. I Expect You to Die too. The only VR thing anywhere close to my list. Would have been on my list, except that, it's kind of the same as the first game. And Axiom Verge 2, kind of an honorable mention as well. And then in terms of stuff I didn't play or didn't get a chance to, so two, I think, big games that I don't think any of us played, Far Cry 6, and did anybody play Hitman 3?
No.
I didn't play either of those games.
I did want to try Hitman 3, particularly in VR, but just never got around to it.
I've tried Hitman games before. That whole puzzle box element, I can see why it's satisfying. I don't like it. I feel like Deathloop kind of scratches that same itch, but with more of an action approach.
Yeah, that's true. Didn't play Returnal either, obviously. And I did dabble in a few things like Kenna, Chicory, A Colorful Tale. That's an interesting one. That was on a lot of lists. I don't know. Maybe I didn't play enough to really see what was special about it, but it was cute. That's about the best I can say about it. I don't know. How much did you play of that, Frank?
Okay, my theory on Chicory is people who loved it played it with a mouse. Because I played it on PlayStation, and trying to use the analog stick to paint accurately on the screen was not fun. And I feel like if I had a mouse pointer, these puzzles would have been a lot more satisfying. And it's just a hunch.
Yeah, I mean, I never got to a point where I thought precision was that important. So I don't know if that's...
You have to use the touchpad. I was using the touchpad.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
This does not feel good. It's almost a disservice to the game.
Yeah, and I guess Little Nightmares 2, I played a bit of, wanted to get back to it, never did, but I did like what I played.
I must say that the fact that Far Cry 6 is flying under so many people's radars makes me actually want to try it more. I'm kind of feel like there must be something there, because Ubisoft wouldn't just spend all that time to make that game and have no one say anything. It seems like it is it didn't even come out this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea sales wise how it's done, but I mean, it seems like it must have done well. It's part of this pretty established franchise. It was the only big Ubisoft game that came out at Christmas, right?
I think it sold really well, to be honest. And I agree. It's on sale right now. I might buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. It just, never didn't get around to it for whatever reason. And I mean, not that I've barely played any other Far Cry games, so that's probably part of it. But
I mean, I've tried many Far Cry games, and I kind of like them, but I in terms of shooting mechanics, they never feel that great to me. And the awareness systems of the enemies, I just always get frustrated. Except for Primal. I loved Primal because it was, hunting and stuff like that.
I just found an article that said that the sales are pretty similar to what they saw for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And I feel like Odyssey sold pretty well.
Yeah, people
from what
love
I remember.
Odyssey.
Yeah, so it must have done well. I guess they have that kind of ingrained Ubisoft fan base that they can kind of just pull on to play the open world games. So that's good.
Yep. I should mention, I know some people were asking us to do a junkies, quote unquote junkies for Game Junk. We never really talked about it, but it might be fun to try at some point. I just, we were really rushing to get everything together just to do the lists, I think. So maybe next year. Yeah,
I feel like I could do that. There'd be a lot of non-agreement. It's just the movie list. We've kind of see the same things the same way for the most part. Like our 3 lists are completely different, and everyone has stuff on each other's list that no one even played. Like there's not even time to play everything, so it would be tough to do.
Yeah. I'm not even
to
sure
be
what all
honest,
the categories would be, but
nowadays I don't play too many games that are just like unequivocally awful. Like I wouldn't continue playing them to the point where I could make fun of them, or, you know, like something like Psychonauts 2 is the rare exception where it's not even bad. Like it's a good game. I just have a lot of passionate thoughts about it compared to what other people think. And, you know, that's where you'd get the most hot takes or junkies type elements.
yeah, I mean, even Film Junk, I feel like we're not watching as many bad movies anymore. Like we don't force ourselves to see every new release no matter what. But games are like a whole other thing. Like playing through a bad game just to finish it is pretty rare.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our top 10 list for 2021. Time will tell whose list is correct. If you're watching this on youtube.com/GameJunk and you've played Psychonauts 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, please say which game you think is better. Only if you've played both and beaten both.
You can also leave your lists if you have your own top 10 lists. Let us know.
Even just your game of the year. If you had to say one game of the year, let us know what it is. And this is
Also,
always...
speaking of YouTube, let's give a shout out to all the listeners that showed love to Sean last week. Thank you, listeners.
Yeah.
And whoever signed up the Russian farm bot to bump up our subscribers, it didn't work. We didn't hit it. We came real close to hitting that 1,000.
It worked for a day or so.
So whoever hired that farm, good job. Keep at it. Hire them again because we didn't get to 1,000. We're almost there. We're at what? What do we see the peak at? 960 or something like that? 960?
Yeah, we were almost there. So
to
close.
get to monetization. Well, good job, Film Junk listeners.
I can ruin your channel because I feel like Tim Schafer might send some...
Yeah, but I do want to say thanks. You know, it was nice, all the people giving shout outs to me, but I got to give a shout out to Frank and Huck because they actually both do all the work for the weekly show, for the editing and everything, and I don't do any of that. So shout out to them.
Thanks, buddy. It's not that much work. I'll probably make the most work, to be honest.
Whatever.
But I
not
play
very much
games, and I play the best games.
It's only the most work when Frank is late and I feel the need to put in the 24 music and adjust that time clock every time to make a joke. And that's when it takes a real long time. But I would say it was worth it. So
I agree. All right. Well, thanks for checking out these lists. One of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode of the year. And you can find Sean on Twitter at FilmJunk, Andrew at MyAngryCommute or EquilibriumSys. And until next time, thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Sean, I didn't go too far with the Psychonauts 2 stuff, did I?
No, it was good.
not far enough. You didn't cry.
No, it was some good spirited debate.
You have to admit, I made some pretty good points.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't disagree with most of your points. I just don't weight that stuff as much as you do. Like, I still really enjoyed all the other stuff about the game. So, what can I say?
My favorite one is the spotlight mechanic. Like, it makes no sense. My favorite one is the emotional baggage. Like, it doesn't serve its own purpose. Like, the point of the challenge is to reward you, and it pretty much cuts any awarding out from under you. Hey, you can't even do this thing that you spent 2 minutes trying to figure out. You're like, oh, this is going to be cool. I'm going to get something for exploring. Nope, you're going to get disappointed. Chop, sweep the leg.
Well, you get some of them. Like, not all of them are impossible to get.
But that makes me not want to keep looking for them. Like, why don't I just wait until I can come back? Well, no, I can't. I have to get half of it the first time so I can come back the second time and do it again. Ugh. Barf.
Yeah, I am not a fan of that kind of thing for sure.
If you want to throw that at the end of the episode, Huck, feel free. This apology, I feel so bad for Simone de Rochefort that she thinks it's her fault that she sucks at Psychonauts. she's afraid to say this game sucks. Crossfire
X comes out as well.
That she has to say. Oh, this is the other part I forgot to say. I like that the game nudges me. Like in the one boss, I kept doing it wrong constantly. And the game's like, no, that's the wrong thing. Or do this. Yeah, that means the game's broken. It means they play tested it and no one knew what the fuck to do. So it's basically the video game equivalent of ADR. Like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do because you don't know because we didn't teach you properly. Or you don't think exactly the way we do who created this game. Holy shit. Now you have to admit that, Sean. Like that's a sign that your game is broken. If you have to keep putting hints in constantly, like Portal didn't have to do that. Portal had a beautifully elegant mechanic. Hey, this is what you do, and you know what happens? You figure it out yourself. Not some voiceover saying, "Hey, why don't you shoot the camera off the wall with your portal?"
I don't remember that happening to me in my playthrough, but maybe it did, and I just forgot. I don't know.
There's a lot of that.
But I mean, the other I honestly if you would just say Psychonauts 2, what place will that be on your list? I would have probably said that's like a 5 or a 6. But just based on the other games, I don't know. That's just where it ended up for me. Like I didn't think the other games were higher than it.
You are not playing our game, and in no world is it better than Ratchet & Clank. Yeah, I want you to. You know what? This might not be fair. We need to hear it from the mouth of babes. You got to give these games to Kieran and see, and don't tell him which one he thinks is better. Frank is going crazy about this one. Make sure you like Dad's favorite Psychonauts. You let him play and tell you which one's a better game. He'll tell
okay, we'll do a little play testing.
Babes. Dad, I can't switch powers. I don't know what to do. Oh, this is a little too advanced for me. I admittedly, it's an advanced game. It's not for children.
Exactly.